Okay, in this video we're checking out a couple of new flight controllers from HGLRC as well as some new 1408 4S and some 5S and 6S motors here. We'll look at the flight controllers first and then look at the motors a little later here. This is just going to be an overview video, so I've got to put these into build, and yeah, the weather's not so great right now, so not a whole lot flying right now. So we'll have these in some sort of builds in the future, so you want to be looking out for these parts in future builds and you'll be able to see these in action. But today we'll just go over the features and such on these particular parts that came in, and then you'll see some more obviously videos on this coming down in the future. And we'll look at the F7 flight controller first here. This is your traditional 30 by 30 size for, I think they're targeting your 5-inch drones, and yeah, this one comes with the dual gyros. It's got the MPU6000 and I think it's a 32K ICM gyro. This one has a lot of voltage regulators here. You can see 3 of them here. There's 2 5-volt 3-amp regulators, and one 5-volt is going to be for like your receiver, any other 5-volt components, like camera for example, and the other one's going to be for the LEDs. So there's these connectors here. There's 4 of them. You can see they're marked LED right there. There's 4 on the 4 corners. And so if you have those LED strips that we want to put on the arms, this particular flight controller has the 5-volt 3-amp BECs that will be able to power those up, as well as all the other 5-volt components on your board. And then this also has an 8-volt 1.5-amp voltage regulator. So for example, that's going to be for your video transmitter, and also if you want to power your camera off 8 volts, you can do that as well. So you can see here at the top you have 5 volts here, and then you have video in for your camera over here, and you can also use the 8 volts there, or you can use VBAT. And then over here you have 8 volts, and this is for video out to your video transmitter, and also 5 volts is available there as well. So lots and lots of options for powering your components on your drone on this board, and nice big solder pads as well. Now the other connectors here on the bottom here, I think this one here is going to be for your, if you're going to be using a 4-in-1 ESC. It does come with the wiring looms for this one, and so this being a F7, I think it does support also the connections for current sensor and ESC telemetry. And so you can see the additional lines there, the green and the yellow for that, and all the white ones are going to be for your motor outputs. And then they do have another connector here, and this one goes into this, I think it's this one here, yeah. So this is going to be for your, if you happen to wire this up for GPS and also compass. So the SCL, SDA connections are broken out over here, as well as your, I think it's TX6 on your, I think it's one of the 5 UARTs available on this board is broken out on this connector here. If you want to use this to wire this solders to a GPS, you can just plug it in here. It's a nice little feature to have, but of course if you just want to solder to the other pads here for the UARTs, they're of course all available to you here. So you can see TX6, RX6 are also on the board, and you got a lot, you get your also the compass connections here as well, SDA, SCL, as well as 5 volts, and then you have your 3.3 volts is available here, as well as receiver, RX1, TX1, RSSI, all broken out over there. And then of course if you want to do soldering of your motor inputs to the board directly, they're available here. That's just through hole, so you have S1, signal 1, signal 2, signal 3, signal 4, so those are your motor outputs. And then you have LED, and well, more pads for LED as well here if you just want to solder directly here instead of using the plugs. So lots and lots of different options available to you on this particular board. Okay, so a few more things here. You do have some vibration dampening here, so I think these are M4 holes with these M3 rubber grommets. So a little bit of vibration dampening, which you're going to need for the 32K gyro if you happen to use that. And by the way, the board is defaulted to the 32K gyros, so you'll have to use your typical CLI commands. I think it's gyro to use equals second, or yeah, if you want to use the MPU6000, then you have to obviously reboot, but it is defaulted to the 32K gyro. And then over here you have your boot button. So if you want to power up in DFU mode to flash the board, you have to use that button there. And then on the back here you have your OSD chip, and it looks like you have some chips for black box data. So that's about it. You got some capacitors here for filtering. There's no mention anywhere in the documentation if there's a specific LC filter anywhere in here. So yeah, you don't have to kind of see. We'll have to see how this does with I'll probably use another HGLRC video transmitter and see how much video noise we get on this particular board. So obviously that's going to come up in a future video. So that's it for this one. Oh yeah, and the last thing is you do get the typical M3 nylon standoff screws and nuts for mounting, of course. Okay, so the second part here is another flight controller, and this is the Ford F4 all-in-one Mini. So you can see it's a 20 by 20 size, so it's got the M2 20 by 20 hole, so it's targeting the micros here for this one, but the board's a bit bigger, so it's actually a 31 millimeter by 31 millimeter board, and then with this little connector here for the battery lead sticking out, it's actually 34.5 millimeters long here. And you see it's a multi-layered board, so you have looks like basically a PDB. So you have all your connections here for your ESC, positive and negative, as well as signal for if you have individual ESCs on your arms, and this will set that up. This will actually work for you. So basically, it looks like they're combining PDB and a flight controller, and they're kind of merging into a single board, as you can see here. They're not actually a single board; it's actually a couple of different boards, and they have them soldered together. And then, of course, if you do want to use a 4-in-1 ESC, that is available to you. They have the connector here broken out. So obviously, you'll have to make sure that the connection order matches whatever ESC you're plugging into, and otherwise you could have some problems with this. And make sure you check your documentation. Okay, so you can see here you have two voltage regulators on the bottom. You have a 5-volt 3-amp voltage regulator and an 8-volt 1.5 amp voltage regulator. So believe that one is going to be for your VTX and camera, and yeah, there's a lot. You can see lots and lots of solder pads on this one, and this one does have I believe 5 UARTs. It's based off the Omnibus F4 V6 target, so yeah, it does support 5 UARTs. Okay, so this is actually much easier to read. This is the printout that's included with the flight controller, so you can see pretty clearly where all the connections are now, and they have some examples here. Looks like this is possibly a receiver, and then maybe a GPS compass here. That looks like that's GPS, and this is actually a receiver over here. S plus 5-volt grounds, RSSI, and smart port telemetry. And yeah, obviously the layout is not all that intuitive, so I think you're definitely going to have to look at this documentation to make sure that you're connecting everything properly. But yeah, it's pretty clear here now in this printout. And then yeah, over here you can clearly see where you have your connections for your camera and your video transmitter. Looks like they have this one 5 volts for the camera and 8 volts for the video transmitter. So usually when you have a higher voltage on the video transmitter, that does mean that you're going to have a little bit cleaner video signal. Okay, so the last thing is we'll take a look at the motors here. So we'll look at the 2400 kV motors. These are 1408s, 2400 kV. It comes with the 12 millimeter hole pattern. It looks very similar to the 1407s that HGLRC makes. I think they have the same sort of style here, where the shaft is not hollow, and yeah, it's kind of not that easy to see the windings, but you can see how this is. I think it's multi-stranded copper windings there. And you see the magnets are not curved, they're flat. A bit notchy, not super notchy. So it does seem a little bit more notchy than the 1407s that I've used before. And yeah, this one is 2400 kV, so their rating is 5 to 6S, and I believe on a 3-inch Gemfan 3052 prop it was pulling 620 grams on that prop on 6S. So yeah, plenty of power for this one. Yeah, I think I might be doing some 6S on 3-inch again on this particular motor, maybe on even a 4-inch, so we'll see about that. And then the other one, of course, looks exactly the same. It's 1408, 3600 kV. Obviously same hole pattern. You can see the magnets are a little bit, it's about the same. Just the way the windings and the stator is built is different. So you get you the 3600 kV versus the 2400 kV. So this is going to be for 4S on a 3-inch prop. So yeah, so I'll have these motors obviously in some sort of build soon. Not exactly sure when, but I'm expecting pretty similar performance to the 1407s, probably a little bit more on the 3600 kVs. The 1407s I think were also 3600 kV, so this ought to have a little bit more top end. I have no idea how these 1408s will perform on 6S on this kV, so this one's going to be interesting. So I'll obviously have a video on this one coming up soon. So that's going to be it for this video. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. And more videos on these parts will obviously be coming hopefully soon, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.